Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
What are we doing here? What does it all mean?
Today-
I just don't understand.
Space celebrities, man.
That's okay. Make this really easy.
Yeah, we'll call it space celebrities.
I guess this is a double feature still.
This is double feature. Oh, come on.
Let's go over our notes.
Don't be all sad.
No, I'm not sad.
Okay.
I'm so confused. I just want to address the knowns first.
If it wasn't made clear, we'll be doing The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension second, as that was the last one we've just watched.
Right.
And the one that makes all too much sense, Galaxy Quest, will be first.
Okay.
If you were confused, Chapter 1, Galaxy Quest. Skip that bitch. Chapter 2, Buckaroo Banzai.
Okay. I think we've addressed all of the knowns and can go into the... what's your name?
Oh, I'm Michael.
Good.
And yours?
My name is Eric.
Okay.
Yeah. People can't tell us apart, though. I'm the one who always sounds sick. That's how you can... I was in a fever dream when we watched Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
So that's probably an even better fucking place to be.
I was just stoned. I was on a ton of weed and cocaine accessories.
Cocaine accessories?
Cocaine and cocaine accessories.
Oh, my God. Do you do weed?
I don't do weed, nor do I do cocaine or cocaine accessories. I tell you what.
Okay. I wanted to tell you something amazing really quick before we start.
I love amazing.
This is just a selfish thing I get to tell you about.
Did you watch the Santa Claus trilogy finally?
No, that's not what we're going to get to. And we're going to spoil these movies. Did we say that? Where are we? Out of Uptown Chicago. This is double feature. My name is Eric. And it's like we're just starting over. We can
What's
go back
amazing?
13 seconds in time. Right. Amazing. Yes. The amazing thing is that a couple days ago, I met somebody who listens to our show by complete, let's call it a crazy random happenstance.
Don't call it that.
I'm going to call it a crazy random happenstance.
All right.
Well, wait, I was at that place doing that thing. I just, now I realize I don't know how to tell you about this. Hold on, give me a second. Working on a thing that I work on. Well, you know where it is.
Right.
So I ran into him. We have mutual friends, but I don't know who he is. And furthermore, and the thing that he also thought was awesome, is he did not learn about this through any mutual friends of ours.
Oh, so you have really good friends then.
So yeah, I know. Fuck these guys. So he has a job where, like most of our listeners, I think our entire fan base is made of people who have to sit around at work and do repetitive things.
Sure.
So he has to move data from one spot to
my
another.
God.
That's at least when he found our show. And so he listens to a lot of podcasts, was looking for something to listen to as he's migrating data, and started listening to our show. And then, I know people he knows, and we're all hanging out. And we weren't even aware of this happening until I'm doing something, and he kind of pauses strangely. This was the first time I'd met him the other day. And he goes, "Are you Eric?" Which is weird. Because he was talking to me as if I was famous or something. And I was trying to think, what do I do in my life that people would know me from? This is, that's actually what I thought is, He goes, "You do double feature with Michael," which also made me excited because someone could tell the two of us apart, which is really exciting when that happens. And he's been listening to our show for, 4 years or something.
So, like, right after it was bad, he started.
Right.
That explains his excitement and not utter disappointment.
Well, so here's the thing, is occasionally I will meet somebody who listens to double feature or whatever, and it usually turns out we know somebody or something. It's very rare that it's just a person who found it on the internet, and then I ran into them. And while you might think it would be a really cool, "Oh, hey, good to meet you, glad you're a fan of the show," the thing I always snap into is, why do you do that? Why are you've been listening for 4 years, as if something's wrong with him? And I kind of felt bad because I interrogated him. Yeah. As if he just told me he starts every morning by putting on a magnetic bracelet to increase his chi. Just what don't you know? There's other podcasts, right? Even about movies, you could listen to any of them.
Eric, you can't disappoint the fans. It's about the fans.
Really excited, which is a great place to start in talking about Galaxy Quest.
Well, actually, I think if we're going to talk about Galaxy Quest, the best thing to start with is Star Trek.
Oh, so you want to talk about like Wookiees and R2D2s and is that the one?
Yeah, Wookiees, R2D2s, and Spaceballs.
Star Trek, right.
So Star Trek, I mean, we can't get into Star Trek because this isn't a Star Trek show. It's a Galaxy Quest show. But you have to mention Star Trek. Galaxy Quest is a Star Trek parody. If you go on the internet, there are various quotes by Star Trek fans, Star Trek actors. One of my favorites is William Shatner saying that he loved it. He thought it was hilarious, though he couldn't for the life of him figure out who Tim Allen was trying to be.
Right, yeah.
And it's
so this isn't a space movie parody. It's not a parody of the comic book universe fandom.
Sure.
This is
it's not Scary Movie for sci-fi.
Yeah,
it's Star Trek.
Very specifically Star Trek.
I mean, we have the whole movie starts at a Trekkie convention.
Yeah,
Star Trek convention. We get these ridiculously, they're fucking razor thin parallels to at least 3 out of the actors of the original series of Star Trek. We have Tim Allen as William Shatner. We have Alan Rickman as Leonard Nimoy, and Sigourney Weaver as Nichelle Nichols.
Sure.
And we also get a nice little red shirt thrown in there, played by Sam Rockwell.
Awesome.
And those are the parallels. I mean,
who, by the way, does not wear a red shirt.
And
is also a pivotal character.
Yeah.
Great move by, once again, if you're going to make a parody, if you're going to make a callback film, if you can elevate it above simply mimicking the thing you're talking about, which is what a lot of those unfortunately fall into, you're really doing something pretty amazing. That's when you're adding to the collective conversation, and that's something Galaxy Quest does in spades.
Right. Well, and I do want to get into talking about particularly those 3 actors and their portrayal of their Star Trek counterparts. But I think the most important thing, and the thing we really need to dive into, is Star Trek fandom.
Yeah.
Or just, sci-fi fandom. You look at something just came through Chicago. I can't fucking remember the number of it had initials.
Oh,
it was like
one of those
SCOS
anime convention
number 25
comic book something.
And everybody goes and dresses up in costume just like the beginning of this film, and they have this bizarre idolatry to these people. And Justin Long, who this film, another thing it's littered with is actors who weren't actors yet, like Justin Long, Rainn Wilson, Missy Pyle, these actors.
Who the fuck is Rainn Wilson in this movie?
Rainn Wilson is one of the aliens in the initial
oh my god, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
What?
It's bizarre.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
How did I not notice this? I must be sicker than I thought this week.
And it's these people that take it more seriously than the people who created the original art.
Oh, sure. Well, that's especially true in this case.
And they do a wonderful thing with it in this film where they become the crux of the solution.
Sure.
It's kind of a double-edged sword. They make fun of them.
Sure.
By having them take this so seriously and be such dorks.
Sure.
But that dorkiosity, the dorkishness, if you will, saves the day.
Either of those, no.
It becomes the necessary tool. I mean, that and the Omega-13, which is possibly my favorite, one of my favorite sci-fi weapons of all time.
Yeah.
Because no one knows what it does.
Right. It fixes our show. That's what it does.
The Omega-13 is, quite literally, we can interchange the whatever device and the Omega-13.
That's fine.
The Omega-13 is the whatever device. It's this machine that they put in the film that when the time comes and they activate it, it will solve whatever the last problem was.
Right, yeah. Well, and they also hamster style that in, where they go, and some people think it can go back 13 seconds. Huh, that's interesting. Anyways.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Galaxy Quest, Star Trek, it's about the fans, it's about the fandom, and this is just as much a tribute to that culture as it is a tribute to Star Trek itself.
Yeah, it's holding those fans up. I mean, in making them the solution to what's going on here, it really appreciates the fan. We'd accept just mocking the fans. Sure. That's an okay thing. That's
I think the best fans know they're silly.
Sure, they do. That's when you look at something like The Guild. The Guild's a really good example of this.
That's Felicia Day back from Dr. Horrible.
Yeah, back from Dr. Horrible, right. So Felicia Day does this thing called The Guild. It was the project she was in before Dr. Horrible and continues to do it, and it's awesome. Fourth season or something of this. Self-produced show. She does the writing too. The whole thing is a day at a con. And so there's a lot of jokes they're a lot more, being a fan of Comic-Cons and having been a part of that herself. They're very specific kind of jokes. So they're a lot nerdier than the usual more broad humor you get about that. But a lot of it is kind of making fun of the fans. And so there is a way you can do that with real integrity. You can do that really well and still just really
by
be making
being
fun
one,
of,
then you can make fun of yourself as a fan.
Sure.
And then worst case scenario, you're just self-deprecating.
Sure. Well, and nerddom is a great place for that because there's a moment of kind of glee and going, wow, aren't we nerdy? Look how
but then
fucking nerdy we are.
But also there's Walter Day and Billy Mitchell back from King of Kong where they're titans.
Sure.
They're beyond nerddom. They are titans of craft. And that's where that's kind of the disconnect. And it also becomes the disconnect with the actors in fucking Galaxy Quest.
Well, so we've brought up a couple interesting properties now.
Sure.
We have something like The Guild, which is the entire series is about nerds. It's written by nerds. They know they're nerds.
By nerds, for nerds, starring nerds.
Sure. And they love that and they embrace that. We have a movie like The King of Kong, the documentary we covered on the show, which looks in at nerd culture and kind of celebrates it in its own special way.
Sure, but it would never walk in there and have a question like, so how do you feel about being such a nerd?
Yeah, right.
That would not be a question. That would be, you'd get kicked out of Twin Galaxies.
So it's aware of it. It appreciates it. It is not a part of it.
Right.
Where then does Galaxy Quest fit on this?
I think Galaxy Quest, it's fortunate in that it has the crutch of just being Star Trek.
Okay.
When in doubt, it can just go back and WWSTD.
Okay.
You shouldn't say STD in that. That's not WWSTD.
No, I'm going to keep it. WWSTD.
What would Star Trek do? Or what would sexually transmitted diseases? And I think that's why it gets away with all this stuff. Plus, it does this fantastically original thing. Where once they're off of Earth, where Star Trek exists, it stops being Star Trek.
Yeah.
Once they're in space and they're in the face of this actual crisis, it's no longer a parallel to Star Trek in so much that they're actors who portray, space captains and such. But once they're in space, they're people who have to solve a crisis. They're not William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, Nichelle Nichols, James Doohan, trying to solve an analog to Wrath of Khan. They get down to that planet where they're trying to get the beryllium spheres. Yeah. And
just the one sphere, right?
Right.
They just need the one sphere.
And Tim Allen's character, he has to fight the rock monster, and his shirt comes off, and it's very, very similar to, I don't know, have you seen Shatner fight the Gorn?
No, I haven't.
Highly recommend YouTubing James Kirk fights the Gorn.
Okay.
It's possibly the funniest thing.
I'll link to it if I can find it easily.
But it's a little bit of a jab at the Gorn fight, but it's still, the parallels become so much further than the character portrayals, I think, are really where, particularly with the captain. Right. That is where the Star Trek remains once they get away from the conventions.
Sure.
In the conventions, it's fucking Star Trek to a T.
Yeah, right.
You have these fans asking questions about the technology and the engineering of the ship and why they made this decision when that would have also been, and why this planet, why it's so close to this planet, yet they're never, seen in the same, that kind of question. That is an Earth question.
Sure.
In space, the real rationale is there's this race that's being wiped out by this horribly oppressive figure, and they've essentially called on mankind regardless of who these people are, because it doesn't matter.
They're just our representatives.
Their experience only lends themselves to this situation in that, I don't know, everything is designed for them to use.
Sure. The controls are modeled
Right,
off of...
exactly. And
which is brilliant.
yeah, well, because it's a perfect way to go, well, how the fuck are they supposed to use this machine? Well, they made it for you.
Sure.
They made it the way you would use it.
Oh, and it's an ingenious... I mean, it's not even just a write-off.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Sure.
I mean, that's... Okay, so that's why they can
Yeah.
control these things. They are best suited for this job.
Yeah.
So it's testing the question. I mean, how would these people perform if they were put in an analog of the show or their actors?
Sure.
You know, we see how they do on that show. What if it really was the way the fandom thinks?
Right.
What if this was a real scenario?
Sure.
And so, of course, they'd fail. I mean, that's not a test at all.
Right.
They're actors. They just fail. But what if we gave them the advantage of, well, we've modeled this after your show in such a way that,
Sure.
you know, let's play the hypothetical. Let's say you know exactly how to control a ship because it's just like you've always controlled a ship.
Right.
And then it became about your decisions in the moment.
Well, and give them the edge of being human.
Yeah.
That's an edge in
Yeah, sure,
space.
sure.
I mean, that's something we never think about because sci-fi tends never to play with that.
Right.
But I mean, and that's something that Star Trek always did really well.
Right.
Is the difference of race in space. We are predisposed to assume all races do something like lie.
Right.
Are capable of dishonesty.
Breathe oxygen.
Yeah. These are the kind of things that when you're in space, what we may take for granted becomes fantastic battle tools. Our ability of irrationality, our ability of selflessness, and, you know,
Sure.
making what may seem like a ridiculously sacrificial decision for a certain uncommon good.
Right.
Stuff like that. I mean, wild cardism, you know?
Right.
And lying. These are things that we take for granted that people just tend to do in, say, I don't know, something like fucking Speed.
Yeah.
You know? The decisions they make in Speed don't shock us
Sure,
because
sure.
they're people on a fucking bus.
Yeah, right.
In space, people are wondering why the bus is doing, how it's even driving.
Sure,
You know?
sure.
The wonderment is so far extrapolated by
Sure.
every light year from Earth. And that's why I think Galaxy Quest does so much with people. You know,
Yeah.
mankind can save the universe
Sure.
because there's nobody in the universe like people.
Well, and as a movie written by humans, of course, we're going to
Sure.
appreciate
Well,
all
yeah.
of our human traits. But that's a lot of what Star Trek did,
Yeah, it
too,
really did.
is it said, oh, you know, humanity prevailed because we are uniquely human.
Yeah.
Because because we have emotions and we can lie
Sure.
and
Yeah,
we can
well,
get worked up.
And it's permanently juxtaposed against the Vulcan lack of emotions.
yeah, that's why
and
that
logic.
character's even there. you
Right.
know?
Well, and that's to draw the parallel to Alan Rickman's character. He's the skeptic.
Sure.
You know, he's cynical and skeptic.
You realize by using the
and
word cynical next to skeptic, we're going to get angry emails.
but they're not the same thing.
No,
I mean,
his character just happens to have both of those traits.
yeah, you
Sure,
can be
I hear
both. You have you know, Tim Allen, the captain, and he's all gung ho because his life is about being James T. Kirk. Or
Sure.
sorry,
Right.
you know what I mean? William Shatner. He's William Shatner. William Shatner is identified by being James T. Kirk and T.J. Hooker, and that's all he's ever going to need to be for himself to feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
Whereas you have Leonard Nimoy, who started out on this show and as this character, and it was so iconic for him
Right.
and for its time, and he wants so badly to divorce himself, but
Sure.
he's so, I mean, he is really typecast
Yeah.
in the full embodiment of the word.
Sure.
I mean, he shows up later. He shows up on, it's even a spoiler to mention that he's on the show, but he's on one of the more current sci-fi shows that we love.
One of the big shows we talk about all the time. Sure.
And,
He's in The Hatch.
yeah.
Sorry, different show. No, but we talked about it on Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
There was even that joke kind of on there
Yeah.
about I am not Spock.
Right. And
I am Spock.
And that's,
The-
Alan Rickman is trying so hard to just ground these people and make them realize that they are not space captains.
Sure, sure.
And he's kicking so hard against this idea that they're actually in space and that they could actually have anything to contribute and that this makes any sense. And I mean, that's the skeptic bent is this wouldn't happen. Why are you even
Sure.
pretending that we would find ourselves in a situation? Like, think about what you're implying.
Sure.
And then the cynicism comes in when he says, you know, we're not cut out for this. We were never trained as real
Sure.
space captains. Come on, be logical.
Sure. Sure.
And then Sigourney Weaver gets to play a little Nichelle Nichols and be really upset that she has to be typecast in this sex pot role,
Right.
and never really have any depth or development throughout the show. But
gives it her all.
gives it her all.
Gives it her all in her
God
role.
damn it, she's gonna read that computer screen.
I know, it's great. Well, and I love that Tim Allen's character uses the appeal of excitement to get them to stay.
Sure.
I mean, you want to talk about that kind of emotionality versus logic. I mean, everybody is playing a part that, you know, you could defend. I mean, yeah, they're not suited to take on space aliens.
Right.
That's something they're terrible for, and they may die as a result of that. In fact, if it weren't for their arbitrary sci-fi fandom device, then they would all die at the end. Of course they would. That's what logic dictates, and that's what would happen. And so the captain isn't trying to say, well, you know, if we just use humanity, we can persevere. He's approaching this from really a much more defendable, I think, position, which is, well, come on, though. It'll be really exciting, don't you think?
Yeah.
You know, he says to them, you could go home and pay your bills and pass out in front of the TV or whatever, or we could be in fucking space.
Yeah.
You know, this is the kind of drive towards excitement that usually, or I guess drive from excitement that you only see in children's films.
Right.
Where excitement propels the plot. You know, we talked about that in Totoro, adventure propelling the plot. Or really, and I mean, you know, you think of Spy Kids, you think of any movie we've talked about as a children's film, a lot of times you make choices because that would be the exciting thing to do, which is really the only real reason anybody makes any choice in film, is because that would be the better thing for us to watch. That would be the fun thing to watch.
And that can get out of hand, and we'll see that when we get to Buckaroo Banzai.
Right. Right. Maybe it's not always the best idea, but certainly an idea, and maybe a good one. Maybe a good one. And man, the dumbest things I've ever done in life also happen to be some of the more exciting things that I did by stopping in the moment and going, well, this would make a really good story later. All right, might as well do it. It's also gotten me through some of the roughest times in my life, is just going, well, this will be funny at a party at some point.
Well, and to go back to that, I mean, he's excited because, I mean, part of the excitement is that he gets to be this thing he's tried so hard to embody for the last, 30 years, 20 years. It kind of invokes this idea, them as celebrities, them as these, you know, these people who did something once, say, and never really did anything after that. And it comes to me as this thing where you look at somebody who's time and time again proving themselves as a fantastic actor and a good person and, you know, giving back to people, or just even giving to people through good art. That's a perfectly fine way to give to people. Sure. You look at somebody like William Shatner, and I'm not knocking William Shatner because I love William Shatner.
We wouldn't do that on this show.
Yeah, you look at somebody like Tim Allen's character in this show. He's done one thing and he's milking it. Yeah. He really has not earned the kind of... He has not earned being idolized by an entire race. Right. I mean, he is a god on a planet because he did a shitty job for 2 years in a TV show. Sure. It's this idea that celebrity is just as much pomp and circumstance as it is actually being good at something or being somebody worthy of that kind of adoration. And when we get into Buckaroo Banzai, we see the absolute flip side of that. Right. The other characters kind of end up getting watered down in the celebrity of the captain. Sure. And you never find out the background, and maybe they've all had fairly successful acting careers, but I think the film is saying, they're being paid to the film is saying, they're opening, what is it? By Lothar's hammer, what great savings.
Yeah, right. Oh my God. Alan Rickman. I just can't say enough good things about Alan Rickman ever.
Speaking of somebody who's earned their celebrity.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, think about characters from, you know, actors from the Star Trek series. We see celebrities pop in and out of that, but especially when you talk about stuff like The Next Generation. Sure. Or the...
Well, Clint Howard got started in the Carbamite maneuver in the original series.
Sure.
And now look at him.
Well, you know, and I think about Will Wheaton's career, but like Patrick Stewart is somebody... So Patrick Stewart is maybe not famous from Star Trek, but was certainly in Star Trek and is memorable from being in that TV show for so long.
I think Patrick Stewart may be one of the most iconographied human beings of all time.
Sure.
Between Professor X,
Well, yeah.
and Jean-Luc Picard. I mean, he's just
The fact that he could go and play Professor X.
after.
Yeah, which is, the same people who watch Star Trek
Sure.
are fans of X-Men. And they would accept that he is this iconic
Exactly.
role in these two separate universes and not just look at him and see the captain
Exactly.
like you would with Shatner. It's almost the opposite of that role. He could have such a huge career beyond that. But I'm really interested in somebody like Will Wheaton.
Yeah.
Will Wheaton isn't necessarily somebody who's been in a ton of stuff since Star Trek. If you looked at his filmography, you would probably still note Star Trek as being the big thing.
Uh-huh.
But he has used his celebrity from that show to do a lot of other interesting artistic projects, books and so forth. Even his appearances at conventions, he makes into some kind of artistic statement.
Mm-hmm.
People will talk about these different conventions and they'll talk about Will Wheaton gave a keynote speech and some idea he landed on became the idea of that entire 3-day thing. And, in the gaming community, Will Wheaton came up with this idea. I know people hate gaming. Fuck you guys. Came up with this idea about online gaming, this kind of core rule of online gaming that was boiled down to don't be a dick.
Yeah.
And at the particular convention that he gave that talk at, that really set the mood for the entire thing. And people 5 years later still refer to Will Wheaton's kind of golden rule about gaming. It's something that's influenced that culture. You don't need to know anything about gaming. Just know that the premise of his talk there really helped map the technology in gaming, the kind of matchmaking system, technological systems and trends in that industry based on a single talk he gave. Developers, as they're coming up with these ideas for online gaming, refer back to a talk Will Wheaton gave at a convention.
Uh-huh.
That's the kind of influence, because he has something.
Sure.
He has these ideas and this mind and this art to him. And so he's used his spot on Star Trek. And instead of just going, well, I can also act and I'm in these 100 other roles, he's found these places he fits into and can contribute in because of where he was.
Mm-hmm.
That spot enabled him to do that. So, we look at celebrity and we look at what William Shatner did with it and what Patrick Stewart did with it, or after it, or during it, and what Will Wheaton did. And when you have something as colossal as Star Trek, it doesn't always fit into the William Shatner kind of milking it thing. That is one of several very interesting career paths these guys can go on and have.
Sure.
Now, listen, I don't want to seem like I'm putting off the insanity that is Buckaroo, Banzai. We didn't talk about the Irwin Allen thing, the rock and roll. I mean, I guess we don't need to talk a ton about it, but this is Star Trek, and a lot of low budget stuff uses this convention of kick the camera to the right, actors fall to the left. It's kind of like the Vertigo shot. It's just a funny thing we haven't talked about before. But now we've talked about it. See, easy. I like a lot that they start with the 80s low budget show first, and then by comparison, the rest of the special effects in the movie will look amazing no matter how bad they are, because of where we started from. Where do we start on Buckaroo Banzai?
I think we start where we ended with Galaxy Quest. I want to start with celebrity.
Okay.
I want to start with Buckaroo Banzai as a fucking person.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do for you is something the film never did for you, Eric. I'm going to take a breath between each thing Buckaroo Banzai is.
Oh, great.
He's a neurosurgeon, a physicist, a race car driver, a rock star, cowboy, and a martial arts ninja.
Oh my God.
Talk about somebody who deserves fucking acclaim.
Yeah, right.
And
of
on
course
top
there's
of-
a movie based on it.
Right. And on top of all of that,
Sorry, did I just give people the false impression this is a real person? Oh my God. There would be more than one movie.
Right.
I think that would be.
on top of all of that, he's a good person. He's Peter Weller. I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so we've seen Peter Weller where Naked Lunch.
Yes.
Let's play a game for the remainder
Oh
of
my God.
Buckaroo Banzai. Anytime I mention any actor from
Where have they
Buckaroo
shown
Banzai,
up on Double Feature?
yeah, exactly.
Well, so this is. Oh my God.
It's
Peter
the be-
Weller. Naked Lunch is Peter Weller.
Yeah.
That's if you want to talk about this movie frightening, terrifying, and confusing me, it's not just the fever and the cold medicine. I mean, we're starting with Naked Lunch's Peter Weller as the protagonist of the film.
Also, Peter Weller, RoboCop. Just while we're on the subject.
Well, if we say Peter Weller,
nothing
RoboCop,
normal, I think is the answer.
Yeah. Okay.
And he portrays this character in a way that I would never have thought to portray a character who is a neurosurgeon, super physicist, rock and roll star. Calmly.
Yeah. Right.
Collectedly.
Right. Well,
as
how
a
else
nice
would you
fellow.
master all those tasks?
Yeah, it's true.
As if it's no big deal.
Right. Exactly.
He isn't the captain of the ship.
Right.
He's just a guy who happens to do these 8 things.
Yeah.
No biggie. This is something I haven't seen on our show yet. I mean, so it should be stated that this is my first time watching this movie.
Yeah, and that's hard.
You know, sometimes I haven't seen a movie yet, and we're pairing up movies, and I don't know what to double feature it with. I think this might be the first time I've seen a movie. We're done with the movie, and I still don't know what to double feature it with. I mean, Galaxy Quest is a fine fit.
Yeah.
But the very partnering of Galaxy Quest and Buckaroo Banzai seems more coherent than anything that happens in Buckaroo Banzai.
Well, Buckaroo Banzai on about 10 levels doesn't make any sense. The plot is really complicated, although none of the characters seem to think so.
No, nobody
which makes
thinks
it more
is.
confusing.
Yeah, right.
Because then you feel like you're not getting something.
Sure.
And then on top of what is going on in the film and the weird makeup and special effects and Christopher Lloyd.
Right.
Okay, wait, I said Christopher Lloyd.
Okay, Christopher Lloyd.
Roger Rabbit.
There you go, done. That was a close one.
It's this weird thing where just looking at it from an objective view, say anybody who hasn't watched the film and goes to the Wikipedia page, looks at it, reads the synopsis, and then looks at the cast list and says 2 things. They say, what the fuck? And why doesn't everybody know about this movie?
Sure.
And when you watch the film, I think that is one of the only things that makes sense at the end.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're so right. Well, the what the fuck is still there.
The what the fuck is still there, but you understand.
Well, you go, what the fuck is why people don't talk about this movie. Yeah.
And the director has stated that people either love it, and he doesn't understand why people either love it or despise it.
Sure.
But it is the case. And
the director, W.D. Richter, also the writer of Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah, so there you go.
The one other spot I still have trouble with on double feature is figuring out. Yeah, you want to talk about sand beetle moments?
Yeah, really.
Big Trouble in Little China.
This is a sand beetle moment in cinema history.
Okay, but at least when you got the sand beetle in Big Trouble in Little China, Kurt Russell went, oh, sand beetle.
What the fuck?
No one does that in this movie.
No.
There is no straight man in the whole movie.
No, there's your typical straight man, the actor that you would hire to be the straight man is dressed as a red plush cowboy, and that's Jeff Goldblum.
Sure.
From Jurassic Park or The Fly.
Yeah, can we take a moment to talk about Jeff Goldblum?
Oh, we have to.
He's been on the show enough that I want to create some kind of Jeff Goldblum, insanometer. As if you can judge any character sanity by on a scale of I had a friend of mine draft one of these up, actually. I know somebody who's a huge Jeff Goldblum fan. Her name's Jen. She's seen everything he's been in. So I told her, if you could just list all of the movies from most sane Goldblum to least sane Goldblum, and then we could use that to try and
gauge
judge
sanity.
it. Yeah, gauge a character's sanity. So I think the scale would go from Spinning Boris or maybe Law and Order to The Fly.
Yeah.
I think The Fly, by definition, the insanity causes him to physically decay. I mean,
that's true.
You don't do a lot worse than that, right?
Yeah.
So you can judge a character's sanity on the scale of I'll say Spinning Boris to The Fly. That sounds like a thing. Where do you rate the Goldblum on this Goldblum insanity? I mean, he's dressed as a red cowboy.
Yeah,
but he seems relatively
he's super calm, sane, collected. There's one really insane person in this film. Everybody else seems really calm. You have Clancy Brown's character. Have we seen Clancy Brown on double feature before?
I don't think we have. A lot of people will recognize him from Shawshank Redemption. We, of course, recognize him from Carnival.
And the new Thundercats.
Thundercats, really?
Yeah.
he played Brother Justin in Carnival, which
Yeah.
was one of the best characters, if not the best character in that show. I mean, that's a show that's riddled with great characters, but man, Clancy Brown in Carnival, just a fucking powerhouse. But people will also recognize him from There Can Be Only One.
Oh, is he a Highlander?
Highlander. Yeah,
Yeah.
he is. Very,
Did not know that.
Very punk rock Clancy Brown.
Wow.
Young punk rock Clancy Brown. One of the main characters, too.
Sorry,
but yeah, Clancy Brown.
So he's also remarkably calm. The two crazy people who we've already covered, one is John Big Booty,
Sure.
portrayed by Christopher Lloyd. Also, one of the Johns, Vincent Chiavelli. Death to Smoochie. Just wanted to check that off there.
Yeah, so this is a movie that puts him, I mean, you want to rack up crazy points, throw him in as an extra.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, he ends up having more of a pivotal role, but when he's sitting in that kind of press corps, it's just you're watching and everything's insane and you're just going, did I see Buggy Ding Dong in the background of the fucking press corps? Just make the audience think they're going crazy too.
Yeah. And then finally, and the king of crazy, the crown of insanity in Buckaroo Banzai goes to our dear, dear friend, A1 John Lithgow.
Okay, so where have we seen John Lithgow on this show before?
Planet of the Apes.
Okay, that was hard because
Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
I was having trouble with it. He is more fucking impressive every time I see him. He, I mean, people knew him. I knew him from the sitcom
Third Rock from the Sun.
Yeah, we talked about that in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, so I won't go over that. But that is by far his safest and his most broad work, easily. It's a comedy role, and it was on late night, and it's not. It's weird.
It's one of those obscure 90s sci-fi things that happened on primetime TV.
Sure. Obscure not because the show wasn't well known, but because it was
obscured from understanding now.
Yeah, it's it just seems like like Married with Children. There's a bunch of
Greg the
people.
Bunny, Aliens in the Family, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Teen Angel.
It just devolves.
I wish. I mean, shows about having a genie living with you temporarily. I mean, what the fuck was going on in 90s
that got nutty
primetime?
fast too. I started with Married with Children. I was going to ease into it a little quicker, but that's what happened. Is it just went fucking nuts. He's insane here. He is. He might eat off his own foot levels of crazy. I don't even recognize him in the first scene. It takes it. I mean, maybe it's the hair. I don't know.
No,
but
it's not the hair.
You stop and kind of go, "That's John." I mean, I know it's John.
Sure,
Lithgow.
that's Trinity, is what you say.
He's in the movie, and John fucking Lithgow.
And so that's the rundown of the cast. There are obviously other characters that play in, but if you're going to look at the outlying cast of Buckaroo Banzai, it's going to be the people who walk in the trailer / end credits from the sides.
Also, what?
Yeah, I know.
Oh, God. It's as if we need to stop.
We do. That's the only way to cover it.
Okay, what?
Yeah, there's this the end credits moment was also the trailer.
Just as nuts as the rest of the fact you can use your end credits as the trailer.
Right.
So I'd seen this trailer before. I think I was at a Facets thing when they did.
Sure.
I talked about that on the show. They did. I think they still do film school where you pay, I don't know, let's say -$3.20, some absurdly low amount, and you get to just watch movies there for free for 6 months. I have no idea. I don't know the details of film school, but you just show up in a theater and you just watch the movie. There's trailers before it, and they give a little talk afterwards. Super, super hip. And one of the trailers they showed before, I don't know, Harold and Maude or whatever the hell I was watching, Rosemary's Baby probably, was this credit sequence.
Yeah.
Which is the trailer. It's just this without credits over it. Or maybe with credit. I don't know what was going on.
And then it ends with that line, the president just called. He wants to know whether everything is fine or we should go ahead and blow up Russia. And then Buckaroo says, tell him yes on one and no on two. And then you see that trailer after they've all marched into this aqueduct and they're walking in unison in this weird synchronized march.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
And and that's supposed to make you want to see the film. And what's amazing and what is a shocking portrayal of how time will affect your film.
Sure.
I bet that trailer, when the film came out in the 80s, nobody really gave a shit because Peter Weller hadn't been RoboCop, and back
Is that what would make people give a shit?
I mean, Peter Weller wasn't RoboCop, Jeff Goldblum wasn't The Fly, Christopher Lloyd wasn't Dr. Emmett Brown.
Yeah.
These actors hadn't done what made
John
them.
Lithgow hadn't been on
Yeah.
Third Rock from the Sun.
Right. None
All
of
of
these.
their most notable work would come around the same time, if not later.
Sure. And so now we look back at that trailer, watch those actors
Sure.
walk in one at a time, and it's
And it
the same
seems
as
like that's
it's
the
the same
thing.
as Kidman, Cruise, Kubrick.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we need to want to see the film.
Yeah.
It's as if they were like, these actors
Sure.
will really hook you in 30 years.
So we talk about this being a collection of such weird things, but the movie knows it's doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Big Trouble in Little China.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's
From
a
Little China in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China.
In Little China, thank you. It's the guy who wrote that movie. He's
Right.
got a handle on fucking weird.
Sure. And the thing about Buckaroo Banzai in particular is that it's unabashed what the fuckedness.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
It's
Well,
this,
it doesn't have a straight man.
right. It goes through the film. Everybody thinks what's going on is normal. Buckaroo Banzai is playing a guitar solo.
Sure.
And during his sad song, he stops.
As if it's normal.
Is someone not having fun out there?
Right.
I mean, if you watch the film knowing that it's got a sense of humor, the jokes start cropping up.
Sure.
But if you watch the film thinking it thinks it's a serious film endeavor,
Sure.
things are going to not make a whole lot of sense. You're not going to understand something like all the enemy characters from the 8th dimension, not even space, just
Sure.
a separate dimension. Don't
Yeah.
worry about that.
Yeah.
They're named John.
Yeah.
And that seems like a device in a serious film. They didn't have a grasp on the human name scheme, so they picked John because it's common. No, they're named John because then their last names get to be hilarious.
Right.
John Smallberries becomes a character when all their
Sure.
first names are John. You
Sure.
have to pick last names that stick out. And eventually the film, I mean, what's the opposite of spirals when you're going upward? Because that's kind of what happens.
Sure.
Is by the end, this climax of the film is, they're in a spaceship. I mean, it's the quintessential sci-fi climax.
Sure.
They're in a spaceship headed by the one traitorous 8th dimensioner who, if they don't destroy this alien force, and I say alien, but I mean that it's local. It's interior. If they don't destroy this force, then another alien force is going to start World War III. I mean, those are the stakes. It's your standard.
Is it a domestic threat when it's from the 8th dimension?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's. Yeah, I think it might be. But it's
the movie's ability to play things straight like that to the point. This is an idea we've talked about before too. Is a movie playing it so straight that you kind of wonder. We talk about it in the context of dark humor. If the movie doesn't treat its jokes like jokes,
and the characters don't treat the jokes like jokes, like
maybe
who
you
knows
don't
it's
know.
a joke?
Right.
At what point?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at it from process of the writer's mind to translate it to the audience.
Sure.
And you have to figure out where it stopped being a joke in production.
Right.
And I think with Buckaroo Banzai, it was a joke on paper.
Yeah. Right after the writer's mind.
Yeah.
Maybe by the time it got to paper.
Yeah.
By the time pen went to paper, the ideas are coming out, not treated like jokes at
Right.
all. No point of comparison with a straight man or anybody even giving a second
Sure.
take. And because it's not dark in nature, there's something about a situation that's so dark, like we talked about on World's Greatest Dad, where you'd know it's a joke because of how fucking bleak it is.
But this is charming. I mean, to the score of the credits, I think is really, that is what the film looks like.
Yeah.
That cute little 80s whistle tone.
Sure.
And I think that that's a lot of why the film gets so out of hand in plot, is because the jokes are treated seriously, and so you have to build on jokes instead of building on serious plot points.
Sure.
You make a joke, and then the joke has to be treated seriously, and so the next step in the writing process, you have to adhere to a joke you made.
Sure.
And eventually you get The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai across the 8th dimension.
So the website this week is going to be doublefeatureshow.com.
Doublefeatureshow.tk.
If you need to understand, can we bag cat this show? Is this bag cat worthy? Just so you understand
Yeah, we can bag cat all the live long day.
Bag cat doesn't make any more sense than Buckaroo. Why is his head? What's he doing in the bag anyway?
I don't know.
There's no food left.
And
in
it's
there.
not a joke to him.
He
It's
can't
very
get
serious.
out. Yeah, maybe bag cat.
Bag cat is the
good...
unsung space celebrity of today's double feature.
Oh, doublefeatureshow@gmail.com if you have anything. If you have anything. Oh, what the hell is happening next time?
Next time we're gonna do more crazy, but we're gonna take a clinical look at insanity, Eric
Sure.
Ingram. Next time we're going to do Dementia 13 and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
So this is going to solve the problem I have where I see crazy and don't know how to explain it or do anything about it.
No, it's just going to be 2 more movies. Watch more fucking film.
Bye. Where, like most of our listeners, I think our entire fan base is made of people who have to sit around at work and do repetitive things.
Sure.
So he has to move data from one spot to
my
another.
God.
That's at least when he found our show. And so he listens to a lot of podcasts, was looking for something to listen to as he's migrating data, and started listening to our show. And then, I know people he knows, and we're all hanging out. And we weren't even aware of this happening until I'm doing something, and he kind of pauses strangely. This was the first time I'd met him the other day. And he goes, "Are you Eric?" Which was weird because he was talking to me as if I was famous or something. And I was trying to think, what do I do in my life that people would know me from? This is, that's actually what I thought is, He goes, "You do double feature with Michael," which also made me excited because someone...
Galaxy Quest will be first.
Okay.
If you were confused, Chapter 1, Galaxy Quest. Skip that bitch. Chapter 2, Buckaroo Banzai.
Okay. I think we've addressed all of the knowns and can go into the... what's your name?
Oh, I'm Michael.
Good.
And yours?
My name is Eric.
Okay.
Yeah. People can't tell us apart, though. I'm the one who always sounds sick. That's how you can... I was in a fever dream when we watched Buckaroo Banzai.
Yeah.
So that's probably an even better fucking place to be.
I was just stoned. I was on a ton of weed and
What?
cocaine accessories.
Cocaine accessories.
Cocaine and cocaine accessories.
Oh, my God. Do you do weed?
I don't do weed, nor do I do cocaine or cocaine accessories. I tell you what.
Okay. I wanted to tell you something amazing really quick before we start.
I love amazing.
This is just a selfish thing I get to tell you about.
Did you watch the Santa Claus trilogy finally?
No, that's not what we're going to get to. And we're going to spoil these movies. Did we say that? Where are we? Could tell the two of us apart,
right.
Which is really exciting when that happens. And he's been listening to our show for 4 years or something.
So like right after it was bad, he started.
Right.
That explains his excitement and not utter disappointment.
Well, so here's the thing: is occasionally I will meet somebody who listens to Double Feature or whatever, and it usually turns out we know somebody or something. It's very rare that it's just a person who found it on the internet and then I ran into them. And while you might think it would be a really cool, oh, hey, good to meet you, glad you're a fan of the show, the thing I always snap into is, why do you do that? Why are you've been listening for 4 years, as if something's wrong with him. And I kind of felt bad because I interrogated him. Yeah. As if he just told me he starts every morning by putting on a magnetic bracelet to increase his chi. Just what do you know? There's other podcasts, right? Even about movies, you could listen to any of them.
Eric, you can't disappoint the fans. It's about the fans.
Really excited.
Well, boys, looks like you started the fun without me.
You're all sick. Every last one of you.
We're going to need a bigger gun.
What's the matter? You scared of things that go boom, boom?
Give me one goddamn reason why I shouldn't blow your goddamn brains all over that goddamn wall.
What are we doing here? What does it all mean?
Today,
I just don't understand.
Space celebrities, man.
That's okay. Make this really easy.
Yeah, we'll call it space celebrities.
I guess this is double feature still.
This is double feature. Oh, come on.
Let's go over our notes.
Don't be all sad.
No, I'm not sad.
Okay.
I'm so confused. I just want to address the knowns first.
If it wasn't made clear, we'll be doing The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension second, as that was the last one we've just watched, and the one that makes all too much sense.
Out of Uptown Chicago, this is double feature. My name is Eric, and it's like we're just starting over. We can
What's
go back
amazing?
13 seconds in time. Right, amazing. Yes. The amazing thing is that a couple days ago, I met somebody who listens to our show by
Really?
complete, let's call it a crazy random
How is that?
happenstance.
Don't call it that.
I'm going to call it a crazy random happenstance.
All right.
Oh, wait, I was at that place doing that thing. I just, now I realize I don't know how to tell you about this. Hold on, give me a second. Working on a thing that I work on. Well, you know where it is.
Right.
So I ran into him. We have mutual friends, but I don't know who he is. And furthermore, and the thing that he also thought was awesome is he did not learn about this through any mutual friends of ours.
Oh, so you have really good friends then.
So yeah, I know. Fuck these guys. Well, so he has a job